It's really sweet to be here and really sweet to see those of you I can see when I shield my eyes like this. I can see all the way to the back of the room, and it's very, very impressive. I don't know if you've captured in your own mind how many people are in this room, but it is staggering. And we've already seen from the people who've been presenting since it started, that this is a kind of deep encounter with our own humanity and how many different ways there are to actually articulate it, and to articulate it so that it's not just talk, but it goes in some sense straight into the heart. And I just want to recognize that my colleagues Sharon Salzberg and Roshi Joan Halifax are here sitting in the audience, and probably many other really pioneering Dharma teachers, meditation teachers who are transforming the world. And I feel like any number of you could be up here in this position at the moment with the assignment that I've been given, which is do whatever you want, basically. Because if you look up on your program, it says I'm going to give a talk, and if you look on some other program, it says I'm going to do a guided meditation, and I don't know what I was told, actually. So I'm just permanently confused, which doesn't necessarily have to be a problem, because let's say you are confused at a particular moment. Has anyone else experienced confusion ever in your life? But how do you know you're confused? Who knows that you're confused? And who actually is driving the bus, you know? I mean, if there's the knowing of confusion, then there's the potential to be in a wiser, maybe even a wiser 2.0 version of the awareness of the mental state of confusion and how it expresses in the body. And then all of a sudden, you have freedom. You have degrees of freedom to navigate your own, like, not knowing, or your own, discomfort. And that's the whole point. That it's not like everything else, that if you're on the learning curve of like becoming a this or becoming a that, that you have to work hard and make it happen, and then you'll finally get to some place. And if you bring that perspective to meditation practice, you're already dead, as they would say in some Zen traditions. It's not that there isn't growth, there's not that there isn't development along the meditative trajectory through practice. But it's not merely instrumental. There's a non-instrumental element to it. And this is really hard for us to take in, for us to digest, for us to believe, because we usually feel like there's something wrong with us, and if only we could get it tuned, if we could fine-tune it enough, then we'd be okay. And maybe you've come here to find the secret to the fine-tuning so that you would be okay. And the non-instrumental piece of mindfulness or wisdom practices of any kind is that you're already okay. And maybe, again, that thing about who knows who's confused, or who knows who's anxious, or who knows who's angry. Maybe there's a whole universe sitting inside there that we just haven't ever figured out how to inhabit. So we're caught in our own impulses. We're caught in our own believing of our thought processes and our emotions. And, we say, I'm angry, but we don't know who's using the personal pronoun. And if you start to inquire, like, who is meditating? Who is breathing? It's fairly obvious. We say, well, I'm breathing. Of course I'm breathing. And I like to joke that, well, that's true in a conventional sense, but let's face it, if it were up to you to be breathing, you would have died a long time ago. Whoops, forgot, but dead. So the powers that be, however you want to frame them, don't let you anywhere near the actual brainstem functioning for breathing, cardiac function, liver function, anything else. Like you, whoever you think you are, with your liver and your brainstem and so on, you're not allowed anywhere near that. Because who you think you are and who you really are like infinitesimally close and also potentially infinitely far apart. and there's an enormous amount of suffering in the distance. And so what meditation really is, at least the way we teach it in what's called mindfulness-based stress reduction, and that is really an attempt to bring deep wisdom from many, many different traditions, but mindfulness is often spoken of as the heart of Buddhist meditation, and there can be lots of disputes about whether my working definition, operational definition of mindfulness is orthodox or not, or if it's a renegade definition, or if it's going to set the world in Buddhism back 3,000 years or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that when we get in touch with what's deepest and best and most beautiful in ourselves already, then we don't actually have to get anywhere else. And in the Heart Sutra, which is, the fundamental teaching of the Mahayana Buddhist traditions, the Zen traditions, Chan in China, and Zen in Japan, and Son in Korea, the core teaching is that there's no place to go, nothing to do, and nothing to attain. Now, that doesn't mean that there's nothing to attain. I mean, there's like a huge paradox here. But if you're trying to attain something, if you're using the instrumental without the non-instrumental, then knowing that it's already here, that you're already whole, that there literally and metaphorically is no place to go, nothing to do, and nothing to attain. Because whatever you think you're looking for, as I think St. Francis said, is who's looking. And so it's like this beautiful mystery, and we saw it in the photographs, and we saw it in the place from which the comments, the talk so far in this stage has come, whether it's from the president of a country torn apart by genocide, or whether it's a photographer who's traveled around the world, or whether it's from a little girl with a lemonade stand. There's no one catechism. And yet, we're always secretly looking for the catechism, or my catechism is better than your catechism, or something like that. So, again, I was told not to give a talk, but to do a guided meditation. So I'm doing this is a guided meditation, because you know how the T-shirt sometimes says, I have one of these. I don't wear these kinds of T-shirts, but it says, meditation, it's not what you think. And it isn't. So my suggestion is that we actually drop in. Okay? A lot of talk about presence, a lot of talk about silence. In fact, there could be so much talk about presence and talk about silence that we won't have any. And the kind of silence that's true silence, of course, doesn't necessarily mean that we can't speak. Okay, it's a deep inner listening, an interior silence that's never not here. In the same way as the heart is never not beating, in the same way as the eyes are never not working, in the same way as your liver is, sort of generating so many different enzymatic reactions per second to keep your whole physiology on. And if a famous molecular biologist once said, I'd rather be at the controls of a 747 trying to land without any training in being a pilot than at the controls of my liver for 30 seconds. So we take an enormous amount for granted about our own deep beauty. And when the Buddhists talk about true nature or Buddha nature, I don't think this is just a metaphor. This is true. It's the actuality of it. But when we're lost in thought, underline the lost. So it's not that there's anything wrong with thought, but there's this whole other element of human experience, potential, and it's simple. You already have it. It's called awareness. It's like so camouflaged, it's out in the open. It's like awareness. Mindfulness, to a first approximation, it's awareness. If you hear mindfulness and you're not hearing heartfulness, in every Asian language, the words for mind and heart are the same. So we're not talking about some cold, clinical, cognitive task. We're talking about some profound aspect of our being that's already available to us. So let's actually learn how to, a lot of talk about resting, of finding some place where we can be calm, or, where our brains can settle, or blah, blah, blah about this or that, which is all beautiful, and I do it. I mean, I'm a scientist, and I love that stuff. But the fact of the matter is that when all is said and done, we shouldn't be doing this for our brains. and not necessarily even so that we will age gracefully. I would say that the motivation for doing this is to not miss your life. And you only have the conceit as well. We got a long time. I've got 9 minutes and 36 seconds and counting. But the fact of the matter is that, when push comes to shove, we only have this moment. If we miss this moment, it's a moment of life. If you miss the look in your children's eyes or your grandchildren's eyes, or the opportunity to put down the newspaper and be awake for this moment, even though it's not the best moment, your mind tells you it could be better if blah, blah, blah. No, this is the best moment of your life. There's a wonderful Chinese poem by Wu Men that goes, if your mind is not clouded by unnecessary things, this is the best moment of your life. So let's actually enjoy it, okay? And I will sit down. Although you could do this standing on your head, you could do this flying through the air. I mean, it's a non-doing, and it doesn't have to do with posture so much. It has to do with relationality, with your relationship to the entirety, the multidimensional, potentially infinite dimension of human life. And everything is inside of it. Gratitude is inside of it. Loving kindness is inside of it. Compassion is inside. There's nothing missing, so you don't have to stick anything in. You can just actually be who you already are. And let that just be good enough for now. Of course, the mind will say that's not good enough, but I'll get better as the meditation goes on or whatever that. But, the more you see that just as a thought and let it come and go, as was said just now, as a weather pattern in the mind, clouds in the sky. So let's just see if we can drop into this moment. If you want to assume a dignified posture that embodies wakefulness and dignity, even at the end of a long day, maybe a lot of you traveled from very far, maybe some of you are jet lagged, still, it's this moment. Presumably, the breath is moving in and out of your body. If there's anybody who's having trouble with that one, please see me afterwards. And let's see if we can just be here. And rest in an awareness that doesn't shut anything out, inwardly or outwardly. Sensations in the body, including breath sensations. We just ride on the waves. Or sounds or thoughts, or any kind of emotional currents. We're putting the welcome mat out for absolutely everything. Everything that you're carrying, which is the root meaning of the word to suffer, everything that you're carrying, you can just put the welcome mat out and rest in just the being, the knowing of whatever's arising, lingering, passing, without judging it, without pushing it away, without preferring or noticing how much you judge and prefer or push away. And just continually coming back to this moment just as it is, held in this embrace, if you will, I would say a loving embrace of life unfolding moment by moment in your own awareness. And awareness is sometimes a synonym for silence. In inner silence, sometimes in outer silence. So a silence beneath my words, in between my words, beneath your thoughts, in between your thoughts. Just this. Just this. Now, for those of you who are new to formal meditation practice, and people have said it on the stage, it doesn't take very long before you realize, maybe for the first time in a long time or ever, that your mind has a life of its own. And you may want silence or stillness, but it feels anything but silent or still or calm or happy inside. And the message is that's okay. Awareness can hold it all. Things as they are. Pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant, neutral, boring, anxious, awe-inspiring, and just allowing it all to just come and go in the embrace of your own awareness. Moment by moment by moment, and breath by breath by breath, as if your very life depended on it, which it, of course, does. You would not have come to this conference if you didn't already know that. And it depends on it in more ways than you think. And it depends on it in more ways than we can think. That's why we need wisdom. 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. Now, if your eyes have been closed, mindfully, while you maintain moment-to-moment awareness, seeing if you can just allow your eyes to open and just drink in whatever's coming through the eyes is just one part of the entire world of the senses. And just maintaining a seamless continuity in the awareness thing. And whether there's nobody in front of you or there are many, many people around you and before you, seeing if you can now allow your awareness and your heartfulness to, in some sense, include not just your own field of awareness, but a sense of everybody else included in our collective intentionality to not only be present, but the actual presencing are showing up in this moment together. Because we are not isolated monads, and we all share in a certain common aspiration, or we would not be here. And so as the conference unfolds, please remember, keep in mind, whether you know this or not, always bears reminding ourselves that the real meditation practice isn't sitting like a statue of a Buddha in the British Museum or standing on your head or some elaborate pretzel pose. The real meditation practice is how we live our lives from moment to moment. And there's never a time, except perhaps for perhaps deep sleep, where we can't bring awareness to the domain of whatever it is that's going on, and with all the doing that we're doing, wrap the doing in being. And it will modulate and modify the doing as per what has been already shown by the science, and guide us in an ongoing cultivation of certain kinds of muscles that we very often didn't even know we were born with, and bring us back to the full dimensionality of what it means to be human, maybe for the first time. And the realization and the embodiment and actualization of that in how we actually conduct ourselves. And this conference is a perfect place, a perfect laboratory for us to do that in relationship with each other, moment by moment by moment, breath by breath by breath, mind moment by mind moment as we get distracted and then whatever. I noticed that by the clock, I'm getting more time as I speak, which is really beautiful. I think I've bottomed out at 0, and now I'm coming up on the other direction. And I'm just getting warmed up. So I think that means that if I don't end this quickly, some hook is going to come out and drag me off the stage. So I just want to say that ordinarily at the end of a meditation, we could ring some bells or hit a gong or a clapper or whatever, but in the spirit of the meditation never ending. Thank you. Let's take a moment and just look around. Just look around, stand up, look around, connect. I mean, just sort of drink in the beauty of each other. I mean, with the photographs on the screen, yes, all of those people are incredibly beautiful. The people in this room, there's no person in this room that's not as beautiful as any of the most beautiful people on those slides. So thank you, folks.